Paul Revere. Paul Revere was a highly important figure in the Revolutionary War and a man of numerous different talents. Arguably, without him, the Revolutionary War could not have been nearly as successful. First of all, Paul Revere was a member of multiple different patriot groups, such as the Freemasons and the Sons of Liberty. And for much of his time, he'd be harassing British tax collectors, and even had participated in the Boston Tea Party, where he dressed up as a Mohawk Indian and threw tons of British tea into the Boston Harbor. However, Paul Revere didn't merely stop at that. In fact, Paul Revere had also led his own spy ring named the Mechanics. These men would go and eavesdrop on multiple different British operations and would be able to relay that information about different British troop movements or plans back to Patriot leaders and Minutemen before the British could actually fully react, thereby allowing the colonists to always stay a few steps ahead of the British. Furthermore, Paul Revere had also inherited his father's business as a silversmith and craftsman, and therefore was able to use those skills he had to help help out the 13 colonies in more than just the ways I mentioned earlier. In fact, Paul Revere had also been massive. He had also provided a large amount of anti-British propaganda, which he would print and engrave from within his own workshop. Now, Paul Revere had managed to also engrave one of the most famous depictions of the Boston Massacre, which, while it was not fully historically accurate, or at least accurate to what happened at the event, was a key piece of propaganda which rose a large amount of resentment towards Britain in many of the other colonies. Furthermore, Paul Revere had also done the Midnight Ride, which is today his main claim to fame. Now, in the Midnight Ride, what happened was Paul Revere, and it was the result of many weeks of planning and eavesdropping on British troop movements and possible plans, and what they were able to figure out was their force of around 700 men were going to the towns of Lexington and Concord, and they believed that they were trying to arrest to Lexington, and they believed they were trying to arrest the two Patriot leaders standing there, which was Patrick Henry and Samuel Adams. So, Paul Revere and his partner William Dawes rode out at night to go and warn the nearby militia and the Patriot leaders to quickly leave Lexington so that they could go and get to safety. However, while on their path, they also realized that such a large force was being sent due to the fact that they were also planning to capture the munitions stash, which was being held at Concord. So, William Dawes and Paul Revere rode out as quickly as they could to try and get the information out. However, Paul Revere and Dawes were overtaken by the British and had to move different ways. Dawes took a longer route around the British, while Paul Revere was temporarily detained by the British and was forced to stay at Lexington. So and eventually the ride was completed by Dr. Prescott, who actually got to Concord and managed to get the munitions out in time. But despite not being able to do the entire ride by himself, the ride itself could not have been nearly as successful if it weren't for Paul Revere, who had gone out and been a key part of this revolution, of that ride. Overall, Paul Revere was extremely important as a figure for the revolution due to the fact that he wasn't restricted to a single way of helping the colonies. He was a silversmith. He would make he used his knowledge as a craftsman, as a spy, as a as a craftsman, as a spy, and also his his involvement in many different patriot groups allowed for him to be a key part of the nation's communication systems and spying systems. And even post-war, he had set up he made many he made many strides in metallurgy and pottery. Yeah, he made many strides in that field, which allowed him to help the colonies in not just a single way. And because of that, overall, he should be given at least an A tier. He should be given the A tier on the tier list due to his